Time with the Brighton District Library. I'm Miss Stephanie, and today we are going to be making a fun sensory activity using a oat container and some ribbon. Other things you might want to have on hand, a sharp knife is really good for punching holes, but not required. You can also use an X-Acto knife. A sharp pair of scissors will also work, and you'll also definitely want to have scissors for cutting your ribbon. It's also handy to have a ruler on hand to measure your ribbon. You don't want your ribbon to be too long because it can pose as a choking hazard. So I've been measuring out mine to about 7 or 8 inches because once we add the knots, that brings it down to about 6 inches. And that's a pretty good length for them to pull and not as much as something they can ball up and stick in their mouth and potentially have an issue with. So what we are going to do today is we are going to take our ribbon and we're going to punch holes all over this oatmeal container and string them through so that our little ones can pull them out. Now the reason we're going to do this is because it really helps with that pincer grasp so that they can reach and pull. And it also does a little bit of fine motor because there's this movement with their arm. If the can is even a little bit out of reach, you can start to do across the midline with them, but it's good for the little ones that are learning to sit up. It gives them a little something to hold on to, and they can practice sitting up. But even for your little ones that are doing tummy time, you can lay it on the floor in front of them, and that's gonna help them to reach and really work on that core strength and give them a little something entertaining to do while doing tummy time, because some of them, they don't like to be on their tummies, and that's okay. So I've already pre-cut a lot of my string, and a good thing you can do is if you want to pre-tie one end, you can do that ahead of time, and then we're just going to punch some holes in this can and string it through. But I've cut mine down to about 7 or 8 inches, like I said, tying the one end. I'm going to use my knife to punch holes and string them through, so let's get punching. Now I do recommend as you're doing this to space them out a bit randomly. You don't need them to all be in one spot, and you want to have different kinds of ribbon. And so your ribbon, try to find ones that are different shapes and sizes if you can. If you can't, it's not a big deal. I've found that if I take my pair of scissors and kind of stick it into the hole, that helps. You don't want your hole too big though that they're gonna pull the ribbon through. That can lead for a recipe of disaster because then you've got a ribbon coming through. Do always do this under supervision when your little one is playing with it. And try to have different textures, a couple different lengths, and just give them some different things to work on. So I'm gonna tie up some of my ribbon. I do like to double knot the inside if I can, because it just makes it a little bit of a bigger knot to hold it in there. And so let's do some ribbon time. I'll see you on the other side. Alrighty, here you can see we have our completed sensory activity. And what I did is I just pulled all the ribbons in. If you look on the inside, you can see them sticking out, and put our lid on. Now, if you've got a little one that's really inquisitive, you can tape this down to help a little bit, but you are gonna have to be able to get back into it. So it's really not that big of a deal if they get the lid off. That's quite the feat. So we stick our lid back on, and then you can just give it to your little one to practice pulling these strings out. And again, that's going to work on those pincer grasps. They can touch and feel the different fabrics. They can play it, they can tug on them. Remember not to make those holes too big because you don't want them to be able to pull them out. And then as soon as they've gone around and pulled out all the ribbons, you just take your lid off, go back in and pull them all back in. And then it's completed again. Now, if you don't have one of these handy oatmeal containers, it is okay. I would try to use some kind of food grade cardboard. This is great because it's round and it doesn't have sharp corners, but you could also look into some other kind of cereal box or cracker box. You could even do a shoe box if you've got that handy. My only caution with that would be those sharp corners, but it's something that you can turn into anything else. Be a little bit creative if you don't have one of these oatmeal containers. I didn't have any handy, and I just sent a shout out to some coworkers saying, does anybody got one? Lo and behold, I got 3 answers in 10 minutes. So if you don't have one at your house, you're bound to probably know somebody who does. But inexpensive, no specific ribbons. You could get ribbon that's just on clearance at the store, no big deal. Doesn't need to be a specific color. The more variety, the better. You can keep adding more and more ribbons to this if you want to not have to re-pull them in as often. Another tip you can do if your little one really loves this and plays with it a lot is you can take a lighter and gently singe the ends of these ribbons so that they don't get frayed, but that's a personal preference. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of DIY Baby Time and are going to work on some fine and fine motor skills of ribbon pulling with your little one and this fun activity. We'll see you next month for some more fun sensory activities that you can do for just with things you have at your house. Enjoy. Thanks for watching. Bye.